we are one nation under God. And knowing that inspires us. It inspires us to look within and find that fundamental respect and care that we should have for one another. When we say we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Our freedom comes from God, not from any other person, not from anyone in government. So naturally, therefore, no one has the right to take away that intrinsic freedom which God has given us. This is the foundation of the social construct of the United States of America. This is what is at the foundation of our Constitution. Our First Amendment, as you well know, says Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for redress of grievances. This foundation of freedom is what makes us who we are as Americans. And that's the core of who we are as a nation. It is what makes our country that shining city on the hill. So as long as we're committed to this foundation of freedom that's enshrined in our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, we can recognize our differences and work together based on that common ground. Coming from that common foundation of freedom, we can overcome the great obstacles and challenges that we face. But if we are not committed to this freedom that is so clearly spelled out in the Bill of Rights, we are doomed to fail as a country. Unfortunately, we have too many Americans, including leaders in positions of great power in our country, who are not at all committed to upholding the Constitution. We have many Americans who don't even know what the Bill of Rights are. They think free speech is something that should only be left to those who agree with them, saying, hey, if you know what, if your speech offends me or if it offends anyone, then you should not be allowed to say it. This is where we are as a country. We have too many people in positions of power whose foremost responsibility is to protect our freedoms and uphold our God-given rights, and yet they are the ones who are actually trying to take these rights away from us. This is the biggest threat to our country. It is not coming from some foreign country. It is coming from power elite here at home and their co-conspirators in the mainstream media and the security state who are working to undermine our freedoms from within. Now, just the latest strategy and tactic that they're using is to try to undermine our free speech by taking it upon themselves to say they've got the responsibility to protect us from so-called misinformation. So basically, they're saying that they're going to protect us from that which they claim is not true. The notion that we must just blindly accept and follow as truth, that which the government or those in power tells us is true, goes against the very essence of our Constitution and Bill of Rights. This was created as a resounding rejection of the reign of kings and churches and authorities. There's a reason the preamble of the Constitution begins with, "We the people." There's a reason our Declaration of Independence says that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Why is it important that we say these words? Why is it important that we remember them, that we actually understand why they serve as the bedrock of this country? The reason why it's important is because in defiance of the Constitution, we now have leaders in our government working with their mouthpieces in the mainstream media and big tech, doing exactly what our founders rejected. And they're doing so backed by the most lethal force on earth, as they appoint themselves as the sole authority and voice of truth. of information. They get to decide what is true and what is false. They get to decide what is information or misinformation. And they expect we, the people, to just blindly accept and follow. This is where we're at today. It is in direct opposition to the Constitution that the power elite is actively suppressing voices, opinions, and information that they don't like. That those who dare to even question the authority are accused of spreading misinformation and are therefore targeted and smeared and canceled and silenced. We've seen their playbook over and over again. Discredit and censor anyone who challenges them. Why? Because they know that their propaganda will not hold up to scrutiny. That rather than engage in debate on substance or even answer very simple questions about their policies, they instead immediately resort to smears and name-calling. Russian asset, white supremacist, bigot, racist, extremist, traitor. But what's even more dangerous than this threat of being canceled is the federal government wielding its power and might to punish those who dare to question or disagree with them and their policies. I'll give you one example. If you go on dhs.gov, you'll find Biden's Department of Homeland Security summarizes the 3 factors that led them to declare that we are in a heightened state of a domestic terrorism threat. The first of those 3 factors is, quote, the proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. I want to read that again because it's important. The proliferation of false or misleading narratives which sow discord or undermine public trust in U.S. government institutions. Number 1 factor. If you replace the word U.S. government with the word church, we can see how those in power see themselves as the high priests in a secular theocracy. This explains why they see those who disagree with them as heretics. And so it's not surprising that those who reject their leadership or views, these are the people who are targeted by Biden's attorney general as domestic terrorists, simply for holding anti-authority views. Basically, what they're telling us is you are an enemy of the state if you dare to oppose or even question the president, his administration, or his policies. Shut up, step back, fall in line, or we're coming after you. This isn't some theory. This is reality. And so the question I ask myself in confronting all this is, what are they so afraid of? Who are they afraid of? You know the answer. It's simple. They're afraid of us. They're afraid of a free people. They're afraid of a free society. I've got to believe that Thomas Jefferson was thinking about these cowardly, fearful leaders when he said they prefer the calm of despotism to the boisterous sea of liberty. They're afraid of the freedom that empowers each and every one of us to seek the truth, to speak freely, to question their decisions and their authority. They're afraid of losing power, knowing full well the intent of our founders when they wrote in the Declaration of Independence that governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, and that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish it and institute a new government. A government of the people, by the people, and for the people. This power elite operation to crush freedom of speech is the enemy attack from within, and it threatens the very core of our democratic republic. It's a complete betrayal of the vision that our founders had for this country, and it is a direct attack on the mission laid out in the Declaration of Independence, where instead of a government ordained to secure these rights, we now face a government determined to take them away. This is not hyperbole. Think about the impact of this from a practical perspective. How can we vote, let's say, to choose a president when we do not have the freedom to actively participate in the marketplace of ideas? We don't have the freedom to share our opinion, to listen to other perspectives, to ask questions, to challenge the establishment narrative, and then assess, consider our options, and make our own informed decisions about who we want to take on that awesome responsibility and serve this country as commander-in-chief. We can't do this as long as we live in a society that's filled with intimidation and fear of being targeted, of being canceled, being intimidated into self-censoring just because we don't want to lose our jobs so that we can provide for our families. And this is the point. What makes it even worse is they're saying they're doing it for us. They're saying that they want to protect us people from being exposed to misinformation, which really reveals how they actually feel about us. How little they respect the American people. That what they're saying is, you know what? You're too stupid to think for yourself, to discern for yourself, to make your own decisions, so big government knows better for you than you do for yourself. This is authoritarianism. Yeah, I agree. This is authoritarianism. It is not freedom. It is not a democratic republic. And by rejecting our Bill of Rights, they have rejected our Constitution and therefore are the greatest threat to our republic. Once our rights are taken away, the government does not willingly give them back. So what do? Each of us in our own way and together must take a stand to protect our freedoms and rights, make our voices heard, hold our leaders accountable, force our leaders in Washington to take their oaths to uphold the Constitution to heart and take action, pass legislation that restores and protects our freedoms and liberties. Right now, there are too many Democrats and Republicans, some who you might have heard from this week, who talk a good game about civil liberties, but when it comes time to cast that vote on things like getting rid of secret FISA courts and protecting our Fourth Amendment rights to privacy, they vote on the side of the power elite and against liberty. But as we look forward, we can take heart in knowing that our path will be lit by the fire of freedom that burns brightly in the hearts of Americans in every community, every home, every church, every classroom all across this country, in small towns and in big cities, where we have decided that we belong to no one but God. We are not subjects or slaves of those who govern. And by God's grace, we are free. And we will fight to remain free.